And of those 21, I sold 20. I was really mad that one of my coworkers sold one of them. I realize that it's fairly gauche to talk about income in any kind of public context, but I also understand that a lot of our audience is interested in employment in the car industry in some capacity. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the profession of car sales. The first thing to understand is really how the pay plans work. And generally what you'll see is about a 25% commission of the gross profit. Now in most cases that will be reduced by something called PAC. PAC is something that all dealers charge to each car in their inventory, and sometimes it'll vary between used and new cars, but this will essentially increase the cost of a car. So when you look at your selling price versus your cost, that's going to be your real gross profit. And in most cases, you're going to get 25 or so % of that. Sometimes it'll be a little bit less if you have high demand new cars, and sometimes it can be a little bit more if there's something that is particularly hard to sell. Now, in addition, there's kind of three other things that can happen. One is what's called a flat or a mini. All car dealers at some point lose money on cars, and obviously they still need to motivate their salespeople to move these units, and so they'll pay what's called a flat commission. And in a lot of circumstances, particularly a lot of high volume new car stores, almost every deal is a loser, meaning it loses money on the front that eventually might get made up either in service or accessory sales or finance, or even in a manufacturer rebate or bonus quarterly, annually, whatever the case may be. So sometimes they plan to lose money on cars, and they have to build a compensation structure for their employees in sales to motivate them to do so. And that's going to be anywhere from $100 to $500, depending on the value of the cars and how the dealership functions. Another thing that's going to happen is generally a cap. Almost no dealerships have no cap on how much you can make. So for us at Lamborghini Atlanta, Motor Cars of Georgia, the max was $4,000 per car. The third commission scenario is also called a flat, but it means that you're being paid a specific amount for a specific car. And this happens sometimes that's a little bit higher than a mini or a small flat, and it's not necessarily due to the fact that the cars are losing money, but in many cases it is. What we always encountered at Motor Cars of Georgia was that when we would get new franchises, because we got Aston Martin and McLaren while I was there from 09 to 15, we would get flooded with inventory. And that's part of what you sort of consent to in getting these new franchises and the owners and negotiating how this happens, but we got loaded with essentially some aged inventory in each case. So when we had Astons, I think we had like 26 new cars from the previous model year that we had to take. And when we got McLaren, we had 21 2014 12Cs that we got into inventory when we knew that the 650S was just about to come out. The manufacturer was giving us incentives, but the dealership also knew that as we're selling these cars that may be going to initially depreciate pretty badly, we needed a larger incentive. So beyond the $4,000 cap, they were paying $6,000 per copy. So every one I could sell, I'd make $6,000. And of those 21, I sold 20. I was really mad that one of my coworkers sold one of them. It's also very critical to understand that you are not going to get paid when you don't do any work. So there's no paid vacation or paid time off or sick days or anything like that in most commissioned car sales jobs. In fact, there's really not even a base in most cases. So you're not going to get paid as a default if you just come to work. And that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to accept, and it creates this really entrepreneurial mindset where you have to take it upon yourself to create your own income. Because your success in car sales really comes down to three things, and that is your ability to sell. You have to be good at progressing someone through the logic of a transaction and understand what types of objections they're going to have so that you can move it all towards a chance for them to make a decision to buy the car. And that is a skill set. It's not something that anyone's just born with. It's something you do learn through repetition and through reading and through instruction and training and everything else that you should seek out. The second thing is your ability to process things efficiently. The efficiency that you put into place with the way that you do paperwork, the way you funnel people through your sales process, how quickly you can present information, and how quickly you can motivate someone to make a decision is really what dictates what kind of volume you can do. The third is your ability to manufacture deals. In addition to being able to sell and being able to do things quickly, you really have to be able to make a deal where there wasn't one. And that's really what separates the people who make a lot of money in this business versus the people that really just kind of get by and sort of exist within the ecosystem of car sales. What I encourage people to do is learn how to prospect, how to call a repeat customer and say, What are you liking about your car? What might you want out of the next one? What can I do to earn your business again? But as you look at how your income can grow and what can really help it, it is important to really look at how much you can make. And I want to be sensitive to how it looks for me to talk about this, because I'm not saying any of this to brag or to do anything except motivate people and let people understand the opportunity that exists kind of in this space, because it is a tremendous opportunity and it's important for people to understand going into it what really is out there. And so when I started at Motor Cars of Georgia, it became pretty easy pretty quickly to make about 10 grand a month. And in most stores, that's really the bar between an underperforming salesman and someone who's really doing things the right way, which is a fantastic income for a job with no educational threshold. I mean, you're not inherently going to have a ton of student loan debt to make good money in the car business. But then it became pretty easy for me to kind of get up towards, 15 grand a month and then towards 20 grand a month when I started to learn more about how to sell cars to repeat customers, how to prospect, and how to close people more quickly. But the best month I ever had happened to be November of 2013, which was the month right after we announced the world record for the Cannonball Run. And it was one of these times where the customers were calling me, not necessarily to want to buy cars, but just to talk about the Cannonball record. So it was a great way to prospect, because everybody was calling me, asking me what was going on, and I would just kind of ask them then about what their car was doing and how they were liking it, what they were thinking about next, and it just became a really easy way to manufacture deals. So that month I sold 17 cars and made a little over $49,000. In most cases, a sales manager at a store is going to make between 150 and 250 grand, and a general manager could make anywhere from 250 to 500,000 depending on how successful the store is. But if you've only got one or maybe even two successful salespeople, the net profitability gets pretty low. But as you look at what you want to do with your life, car sales can be great. Exotic car sales can be particularly fun. There's a lot of liabilities, there's a lot of risks, and there's absolutely nothing guaranteed. I think, in fact, in 2013, where I made almost 50 grand one month I just made 6. And so it varies a lot in that range, and you can never predict how much you're going to make, but you can have a lot of fun, you can make a lot of money, and you can learn a lot of skills like shrewd negotiation that'll help you in the rest of your life.